What I'm going to present to you guys here today, ironically, is actually simpler than it's ever been. And the reason that I would say that is because I think when you're a new teacher, you don't have very much to teach because you're new. Then when you're an intermediate teacher, you have a ton of stuff to teach because you've got all this stuff that you're realizing. And then when you've been teaching a really long time, you actually strip out anything that's not absolutely necessary and you focus in on just the stuff that's really, really necessary. And from that, you can get an even better result. All right. So actually, the stuff that I'm going to teach you guys here today, in my opinion, is like, the keys to the kingdom. It's the stuff that if you actually follow it, you should be able to get a super awesome result when you guys go out tonight. First of all, some introductory principles to RSD. And for you guys who have been in a while, actually, it really doesn't hurt to go back over the foundational stuff. I find it very valuable, actually. I really enjoy it. First of all, what is RSD about? Our belief is that being attractive to women is not something that you do, it's something that you are. All right, so for you guys that are kind of new at this, all right, who have never seen RSD before, our philosophy is basically something called deep identity level change. What it basically means is that it's almost, not quite, I'm kind of exaggerating, but what it almost means is that when you kind of have experienced this so-called deep identity level change, that when you approach women, pretty much you could just approach it by saying hi and have girls that are very attracted. Another principle that we like to say is the self is always coming through. So what does that mean? Well, for example, have you guys ever heard, in the pickup community, the idea that you want to have really good body language? Any of you guys ever heard that? Yes. All right, and I believe that. I'm actually not taking anything away from that at all. But what I believe is that when you say the self is always coming through, it's almost like, okay, say that would this be considered good body language? No. Right? But yet, if you go up to a girl, right, if you're a cool guy and you're like, hey, what's up? How are you doing?
Great.
Very nice to meet you, okay? It's not like she's gonna be like, I don't know about you, you look kind of tense, right? Your shoulders are up, okay? Not gonna happen, buddy. All right, so the thing is that when we say the self is always coming through, it's almost like, there's certain rules in pickup, like don't compliment, but, it's like, when you're new, in RSC we call that a chode, right, which is kind of a dumb term, but somehow that came in, it's called a chode, yes. Say you're chode, and you're like, hey, it's nice to meet you. My name's Owen. What's up, right, like that, and then of course it's not gonna work. Hey, Owen, nice to meet you, right? Boom. Then, even though you're doing something that is, quote unquote against the rules in pickup, because the self is always coming through, you can kind of, quote unquote, get away with it. All right, so we have a really big principle that the self is always shining through. A couple other views of RSD are that women and men are both here. All right, so what does that mean? Is that just like a feel-good thing? Because it sounds like a feel-good thing, right? Like, men and women are both here, we're all equal, right? But it's like, yeah, that's fucking great, but when I go up to the girl and she blows me off, right? How does that help me, right? It doesn't seem to have a practical application. But the reason why we kind of say that guys and girls are both on the same level is the difference between demonstrating attraction or demonstrating value versus assuming value. All right. So in other words, if you're going in there feeling like she's up here and you're down here, and you're walking in there thinking I have to compensate, right? Like I have to show certain things about myself that are going to make her get attracted. Then what's happening is you're coming from a position where you're already kind of, you're already coming from the seller's frame. All right, you're already coming like you're trying to sell something to her, as opposed to the buyer's frame where she would be the fortunate one. So what we teach is something called assuming attraction, and what assuming attraction means is that you're basically acting as if she already likes you. But you're not only acting as if, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. She really does already like you. That's kind of what's crazy, is that when you realize that girls like you, then they like you, all right? And it's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around, but it's something called a self-fulfilling prophecy. A lot of guys get really hung up on the inner game side in RSD. Just like defense and offense, there's both an inner and outer side to success with women. It's just that the stuff that we do in terms of the outer game stuff, it's the kind of stuff that's very natural, all right? It's the kind of stuff that guys that are naturals do.